Today, I've been out doing all of our chicken chores because Jess and the kids are out of town, and I found a crime scene in the coop. Hey everybody, we are dealing with a problem on our farm. And we've known about it for a while, but we just couldn't necessarily put our fingers on the actual issue. So we're sitting here in the chicken coop, and it's coming on the end of February now. And the light has been coming, meaning the sun has been, out for much longer than it was here back in December. And so we should be at the point where there's, we'll call it an abundance of eggs, because we've got quite a few chickens. But we're not getting that. And in fact, the totals have dwindled here over the last couple weeks to the point where we're getting like 2 or 3 a day, which is completely off the mark. Not to mention our most consistent layers were some of our smaller birds that we had, and we're not getting small eggs anymore. So we know they're getting fed. We know they're getting water. We know the daylight is getting bigger. So what could possibly be going on? Well, inevitably, the first response is, are the chickens eating the eggs? Well, it doesn't. We've seen no evidence of that ever, that's the case. Well, then the question is, well, is there a predator that's taking them? And again, there hasn't been any evidence of it. But as I say that, so there hasn't been any evidence of that. We haven't lost any birds recently. There's been no new tunnels, no holes, in under the ground. And again, it's frozen where we're at. But we do have some, we'll call it blemishes in our security. You can see, any predator that can crawl could fit through our rafter system pretty easily. But again, we've had no evidence until today. Today, I've been out doing all of our chicken chores because Jess and the kids are out of town, and I found a crime scene in the coop. I come over to our nesting boxes, and then the lighting's not the best in there. Chickens don't do that. They don't make messes like that. And as you can kind of see, we have a situation where the birds oftentimes roost up at the peak of this particular setup we've got here, because long story short, there's a gap. There's like a 2x4 gap in between the wall and where this is, which allows for the chickens to get up there, which is the whole point of this slanted roof, is to avoid that, but it is what it is. The chickens are up there. And so that would indicate that we had a predator come in at some point recently, because I haven't seen that before, and I do check for eggs at least every other day when I'm out and about doing chores, because again, this has been something on our mind, like, where are they? They're just, why aren't they laying? And I came out today and I was like, yeah, I'm going to just start bribing them. Mealworms, extra food, scraps from the kitchen. I mean, I'm going to just bribe them because rent is due and they're not producing. But now that I've seen that, it is a game changer on strategies. I did attempt to put up a security camera here the other day, which in fact I did. It's a camera there, and it's all solar powered, so it runs without power, and that's not the issue. However, I'm running into the problem where it needs Wi-Fi connection, and I'm like just too far away from that happening. So I got to see if I can put like a booster or something like in my garage that might bridge the gap or something. I don't know. I got to see what I can do to make that work, because that is a critical component to being able to help identify what's going on. But in the meantime, I figure worst case scenarios, I'm going to put a couple traps up. We've got a couple basic traps that we've used successfully in the past, because in years past we've had weasel problems, and it was devastating when that happened. That was just a massacre of huge proportions. We lost like 30 birds in 3-4 days, and it was just like every single night it was a battle trying to get things figured out. And long story short, it was a victory we ended up winning, but not without a lot of casualties in the process. So we've dealt with this in the past, but again, we haven't seen any birds missing or unaccounted for basically all winter long. But now I just saw that, and I'm trying to do a head count, but it's a little difficult in the middle of the day. It's easy to do a head count at night, where they're not moving around and they're all roosted up on something. So I'll come back, but the quick count says we can't possibly be missing more than one or two, if any at all. But what I saw in the coop would tell me we're probably missing at least one, but it's certainly not a lot. Not a noticeable number. So I got to go get the traps. I got to get those in place. That's step one. I got to work on my internet situation. That's step two. And then it's praying, and helping God persevere the flock, and help us find a path to keep these guys healthy, safe, and ultimately being able to produce for our family. All right, everybody, welcome back to the scene of the crime. And now is where, as a farmer, you have to go into full detective mode. You need to figure out what is attacking your livelihood, what's producing for your family, and it's game on with the predator. And so, first disclosure, I am not a master trapper. Don't pretend to be. I grew up in the city. I was never hunted. Jessica and I, we just moved out here like 6 years ago. We had God moved us to get out of the city and to get into a quiet, humble arrangement. Work with animals, work with the land as He intended, and just be more at peace with our lifestyle. And it's been an amazing blessing and an amazing ride. It's been more than we could ever have dreamed. But as I say that, neither Jessica or I came from a farm, a rural community that just was not our upbringing. And so it's been a dramatic lifestyle change for us, which has been awesome. But it's been a learning curve as well. And we've had a lot of ups and downs and failures and wild rides. And that's really what's motivated us to do this, because see the crazy that's going on in the world right now. And we are so happy that we made this transition when we did. We're so happy that we're established, if you will, with what we have going on. We've learned a ton, but we knew nothing. And I anticipate a lot more people making a similar change in lifestyle. There's a lot of reasons for that anymore. That's not the point. But the point is, I see a lot of people embracing homesteading, taking control, self-sustaining, breaking away from these different things that are binding us in society, and that's what we've been aspiring for, being closer to God, being closer to what He designed. So if this can be an inspiration for anybody out there to make that dive into this change, that's what this is for. So let's talk about how we're going to learn from this, because I've got some experience because of things that have happened on this farm. So I'm not talking out of my rear end completely. I'm just making the full disclosure that I'm not an expert in this area. So if you've got good tips, man, I'm all willing and humble enough to listen. So here's how I'd play it out, and this is what my strategy is. So tear apart on what my thought process is, and let me know how I can get better at this. Number one, I look at the scene. Where did it take place? Well, it took place inside a shed or a coop. So that's both for the potential missing eggs as well as, of course, the blood that probably represents a chicken. So I know it's not an aerial predator, right? And so that's, of course, one of the first things you have to understand. Is it coming from up? Is it coming from down? In this particular case, it's down for me. I evaluate, of course, what is missing. For me, it's the chicken and potentially the eggs, right? If something's after your carrots and cabbage, it's a different sort of animal that's coming at you. And then, of course, you're checking around all through the perimeter, looking for tracks going around the fence. And in my particular case, I saw nothing. No dig marks, no prints or tracks. So I was out of luck there. Nothing happened. And then I did the same thing around the actual coop itself, and saw nothing. No visible signs of being digging. But it's again, it's an environment where A, I've got big trees, B, I've got gaps up in the rafters. There's my solar for that camera that I still got to try to get situated. But it's not like this is Fort Knox that I've got created for him. And, buttoning things up here is, I guess, it's on the to-do list, but it hasn't happened. It's just the way it is. There's a lot to do on a farm. Think through, when is this likely taking place? Is it in the evening? Is it during the day? Because that obviously can determine when they're going to be active and when to make sure things are out there and set up. In my particular case, I don't really know. On one hand, I feel like the daytime would be the obvious answer because we're, in theory, missing eggs. And I say that because it's not like I can prove it. They did not have a good egg laying season or off season this winter. It was really, really down. We didn't put any light on them or do anything like that, and they just didn't produce for squat. So is it just they haven't really kicked in yet? I guess it's possible. It seems a little unlikely. We know a lot of other people in the area are getting eggs consistently. So plus we had a greater number consistently 2 weeks ago than we do right now. So all the signs point that it's not just a wild goose chase. We are actually missing eggs. No shells or anything like that we've seen, but it still seems like we are. But then the blood, that generally comes with an animal that's coming at night, or at least off hours, early and late in the dusk time. So we'll see. I don't really know, but that would be something that's helpful. I would have had some sort of track in terms of like an entry point. I would diversify these two traps. I'd put one towards where they're coming in, and then one close to where their end goal happens to be. I wouldn't have put them both in the same end spot, trying to overwhelm with change and different. But at the same point, make sure if you do it on the outside that something. We have dogs. Nico's outside. She lives outside. She's our guard dog for the farm, and so she's a pretty good deterrent. But she would probably not have a problem trying to get to a piece of Canadian bacon if she had access to it. So it's on this side of the fence, where you can control it. But I have it set up right now. You've got the trap set up in the corner here, which is the same corner that the crime scene was occurring. The bait is in the far corner. It won't be able to reach it anyway, in any which way except for this point. So I've got the bucket there to create a divider for the chicken so no chicken wanders into it. Back and check. And like I said, before it gets dark, and then we'll check again in the morning and see if we have any luck.